OB. She will bring to you a wealth of knowledge on nature to the occult with passion-filled rants. Also bringing along special guests that show the truth of what is hidden at the end of the rainbow. Don't miss this ongoing adventures of a feral hippie.
I want to tell you how it's going to be. You're going to give your love to me.
Welcome to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and you're listening to Starseed Awakening Radio. And here's your host, Miesha Johnston.
Hello and good afternoon to everyone. I've got a wonderful guest today, Janet Lesson. She is our own Janet Lesson from Sacred Matrix, which is a show here on Revolution Radio every Sunday from 8 to 10. So she's going to be talking about her own story. So I'm really excited to hear about it because I know little bits of it, but you're going to be blown away when you find out that there is a movie that has stole some of her story and put it into their movie. So it's pretty exciting when you hear about this later. So I just want to tell you about Starseed Awakening. Starseed Awakening is a local group here in Las Vegas that I have through Meetup. We meet twice a month, the first Friday and the third Friday of every month. We also have events like we're going to be having for anybody who's local, we're going to be having our Halloween party, our annual Halloween party, and costume and lots of fun. I also have on the internet through Facebook, I have Starseed Awakening, which is a group for people who are just waking up, not really wanting to get involved in the whole ET or the MK Ultra or anything. They're just interested in the Starseed part of it. So that's that group. And then I have Starseed Awakening ET and experiencers groups, and that is for people who are experiencers, want to talk to other experiencers who know how it feels to be an experience and how to live a life with these kinds of experiences. And then also I have a group for MK Ultra, My Lab, Super Soldier, and target individuals. And all of these groups are, I also have a live Google Hangout group every week. So for the experiencers group, it is tomorrow at 11:30 on Google Hangout. And if you go to the Starseed Awakening or any of the Starseed group, the other one as well has a post on it that you can just join, and then I will send you the link. It is a private group. It is, I do make sure that the people are experiencers, and so that we don't have those infiltrators, especially in the MK Ultra. We have a big problem with it there. So that is it from 11:30 until 3 o'clock. So it's kind of a 3.5 hour group. And then on Thursday, we have from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, or to 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, depending upon my work schedule that I have. Also, you can go to my site, starseedawakening.org, and learn about my own experiences, since I am a lifelong ET experiencer as well as born into an MK Ultra family. And I was on Janet and Dr. Sasha Lessing's show one time as well on another Aquarian radio station. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Janet, my friend, and a wonderful woman. Janet's own story is, she's an author, an educator, an experiencer, a contactee, a researcher. She also, of course, is a radio show host. She's workshop leader and a counselor. She and her husband, Dr. Sasha Lessing, facilitate experiencers at conferences in Skype groups and in their growth center in Maui, Hawaii. She works with those who channel, who engage in shamanic journey work, or who use tantric ritual to access the superconscious. Likewise, her specialties include tarrying with those who experience abduction, astral contact, paranormal activity, who belong to alien contact groups, or who have supernormal or nature guides. Janet practices encompasses those who access the dead, experience near-death experiences, who get powerful psychic imitations, who experience themselves and others as multidimensional. In her practice, Janet helps ground those in contact with the metacosmic void. Janet is the author of Dance of the Souls, Peace the Veil. Jen is also the co-author of Anunnaki, Legacy of Gods, and Anunnaki, the False Gods, which we are going to have Dr. Sasha Lessing on next week, and going to be talking just about this exact thing, the Legacy of the Gods and the Anunnaki. So you can go to her website at Aquarian.com, and thank you so much for coming, Janet. I really welcome you to the group, and I understand you're traveling, so you're not in the jungles of Hawaii right now. So love to have you here.
Well, thank you for inviting me to the show. Yes, in the jungles of Hawaii, we don't have a very good connection, and so this is much better. We're here in Los Angeles right now, and we have Dr. Lesson is here with me, and he is a facilitator, psychotherapist that works. He's been working with experiencers, so he's here if we want to talk to him as well. And so
great.
I went to correct aquarianradio.com, not just aquarian.com, aquarianradio.com is our major site, but I also have experiencersnetwork.com. We have some Anunnaki-related sites, which we'll talk about next week, I suppose. And then I have, or we could mention it, enkispeaks.com is our main Anunnaki site. It's ENKISPEAKS, enkispeaks.com. And then the other one is extraterrestrialcontact.com. And we also have, anyway, there's other related sites. We kind of have it down into different sections because some people are approaching this information from various perspectives. So we have various websites and Facebook's groups and pages that are linking together so that we have greater access to those who need assistance as we are experiencing now this grand awakening. It feels like there's something magical happening right now.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so that was extraterrestrial.com?
We have extraterrestrialcontact.com.
Contact, okay.
Experiencersnetwork.com.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then enkispeaks.com. But I put all the shows that we do on aquarianradio.com, and that's including, I'll be putting the link to this show on Aquarian Radio, and then after the show, I'll do what I can to get it out to literally millions of people, because we are experiencing, as a cosmic community, as a global community, some kind of major ascension or transformation or awakening, and it's time.
Yes.
It really is time.
Yes, and it seems to be happening to the, let's say, normal, in quotation, people. They're waking up too, so it's wonderful.
Right, I was at another group which we were talking about different things, and we came out talking about the Anunnaki and the experiencers, and in the group, these people that we didn't think had any awareness of this information, they were sharing as well. So I think this is pluralistic ignorance, that there are many, many people that are having these experiences, and we tend to censor ourselves when we go into a group because we don't want to be ridiculed. But if you dare to open your mouth and broach the subject, you may be surprised how many people are out there actually having these types of non-ordinary experiences.
I 100% agree. I see this all the time, even at the store I work at. So yes, it's very important that we are be mouthpieces for this ascension, that people need to know that, oh, there's somebody else that believes this, that they have to open them right up. So that's wonderful. And what else are you doing?
Well, right now we're going to be going home on Monday. I'm preparing for let me get this site up. the UFO Con, the Experiencer event, which is October 24th and 25th. And I'm hoping that you'll make it over to join us, because these are wonderful gatherings of people of like mind, and a place for newbies to come and feel safe enough to open up and discuss things that have been going on for themselves. So Dr. Les and Sasha and I will be going. I will be presenting my information. This will be my first full presentation all by myself. Normally I'm up on stage with Sasha, Dr. Lesson, but I will be doing this PowerPoint presentation where I'm coming out with my full story, or as much as I can fit in an hour and 15 minutes. And then Barbara Lamb and Sasha, Dr. Lesson, and let me get the third person. There's three facilitators. Laurie McDonald. And we're going to be doing experiencer sessions throughout the conference, working with more and more people close up and personal, so that they can feel supported and safe and be able to share. A lot of people are just coming out of the closet, so we're very sensitive to their needs and helping them to become aware of this subject and start to be comfortable with this new paradigm.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, I definitely will be there. I will be having a table, and I'm looking forward to it. I wouldn't miss it with experiencers. This is the most important kind of event, in my opinion, because the experiencers are the forefront. The experiencers are the most important part of this whole phenomena. And I think that Lauren Fenton's conventions are great.
She does. She creates wonderful events, and so we really need to get out there and support these types of events so we can create more, because putting on a conference is quite expensive, and it's very it's a lot of work. And so those people that are putting on these conferences they are the outreach program. And of course you have like a support group in your neighborhood. We envision, I'm working with free, and what is the acronym?
I'm working with free too.
Yeah. What's that mean? Do you have the acronym? I don't have it in front of me.
Gosh, I just was talking to Ray yesterday. I should know it by heart now, shouldn't I? But I
don't have it either.
Yeah. No,
anyway,
yeah.
Free is the experiencers group. They're getting organized globally, internationally, and so we envision having conferences, like regional conferences, perhaps Northeast, Northwest. Like 6 mainland conferences, and then I want to have one in Hawaii. I'm living in Hawaii.
Yeah, I want one in Vegas. It's called Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, and it is wonderful. He gave me an update yesterday on all of the surveys and everything and how they're doing, and so I encourage anyone to go to free. That's free experiencers on the Facebook, and then from there you can go to the website and fill out the survey. You want your voice heard. It's absolutely anonymity, free. You don't have to put your name or anything like that in it. So check it out, folks.
Right, I highly recommend it. This is the first time we're getting this organized, and I'm really proud of our community coming together, and because we've been talking about this for years.
That's right.
About creating these groups. So having the support groups on the local level is important as well, and you don't really have to have a therapist to lead the group. You just have the intention of sharing and being supportive and healing each other, to allowing healing to happen. I should say, nobody's going to fix or repair anybody, but allow healing to come in the group sharing process.
Yes, that's right.
What happens in your group that you do locally twice a month?
Well, and then of course I have the internet groups. The internet groups are through Google Hangouts, so it's basically the same kind of thing. Our experiencers that we talk about, our contacts. I have one group that I do with the experiencers, where that's just basically all we do for the entire time, and everybody really gets a lot of their sharing, feeling much better, and they leave. In fact, they don't leave until 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
But then, and then the other one that is on the third Friday, that is for the psychic development. And so, well, like last night, we did automatic writing, and we opened it up with qigong, and then we had a meditation, and then we did automatic writing. So, and then we shared afterwards, and they didn't leave till 11:40 last night. So, yes. And
I'm familiar with that. They're supposed to end at 10. It's like, no, forget it. You're not getting home till 1
that's
in the morning.
exactly right. That's right. So, so there's a lot of people with groups all over the world that are they're participating in this important mission.
And then also Free is attempting to organize by getting the therapists, the hypnotherapists and people that, counselors that can be the support system on a global level for those who want to explore their experiences in depth. As you're aware, sometimes you have like a screen memory or an initial incident, and you might know, I know there's more that happened and I'm blanking out, I can't remember. And if you have a competent therapist which will facilitate you rather than trying to fix or repair or lead the witness type of thing, if you have a good facilitator, they will tarry with you as you journey into your experience and allow the details of what you experienced to come out.
It's very important that you have someone that you can trust, and so that's.
So we're forming a directory, and I'm working with Free to get this directory online, and hopefully we'll have therapists in every state and every city eventually, and that can work with experiencers, because it's a certain type of therapy that you need to do with the experiencer. First of all, the facilitator needs to be open-minded enough to not try to censor the experiencer and validate the reality. And, what really is kind of scary for me is how many experiencers are going to traditional therapists about, they might be going because they're smoking or something, but it's not unusual for a traditional therapist in their regression therapy to encounter an experiencer, and then the experiencer is talking about, their contact or their abduction or even, their MyLab experience, and the untrained therapist doesn't know what to do with that, and they try to fit the story that's emerging from their client into their reality, and they do more harm than good if they're not aware of this phenomenon. So I think now more than ever, it's very important for us to get organized and create global awareness about what's going on, so we don't have therapists out there, unknowingly, I don't think they're intentional, but do harm to a contactee experiencer who finally is, their situation is emerging into their consciousness from their subconscious level, and they just need to have support.
Absolutely. That is very, very important. I went the route with the therapists that didn't know it, and it was really, I got lucky one time and ran into one who actually believed in UFOs and ETs, and so she was from then on my therapist. I've had something like 17 regressions and stuff about mine.
Wow, you had 17.
Yeah.
Well, I find it's good to have ongoing regressions, because it's like peeling the levels of an onion.
Oh, yeah.
The first time you visit a story within your own consciousness or subconsciousness, you're going to get certain pieces of the puzzle. So, yeah, could you just close the door? Because we're in our guest is back, and I don't want them to make noise on our show here. Okay, and so what was I saying? It's just very important to revisit the story, because you get more details over time, and some of these details are critical for further episodes. It's kind of like the Russian dolls, they're all nestled inside each other, and as you keep going through the layers, and it's just amazing if you can do that either in a support group or with a competent therapist, or even learning. Like girlfriend and I used to do regression sessions with each other. We were kind of, in our 20s and 30s and exploring, but it was phenomenal what information we were able to retrieve. We were looking at past lives. And we would just take terms and do hypnosis that we learned from online, and we had a very loving presence. There was no intention for any harm, holding space for each other.
Right.
But we got phenomenal information about our past lives, which we were able to kind of correlate and validate some of the episodes by, looking at the information that emerged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I currently do is past life regression. I have another class that I'm about to take. I'm doing it piece by piece financially, and I'm doing the PTSD. And so once I get that, I believe I may open it then to the experiencers and regressions. But it's important that, I have to ask you, what do you think about regressing over the internet? I just don't think it's a good idea.
Well, we it's better than nothing. If you have someone that is so isolated and they can't access a therapist, or there isn't a therapist in their area, it's better than them sitting there holding this inside themselves and tearing them apart. So we've been doing some. You have to be very sensitive. You coach them that they have safe space, no phones on, they won't be interrupted. And then you can use Skype. You can look at each other. We encourage them to lay down or be in a chair. They're reclined. And Dr. Lesson, comment on that. You've done several Skype sessions recently. How did that go for you?
I find that before I do a regression, I have a person being able to disidentify with their usual subpersonalities and center themselves and allow their instinctual and vulnerable energies to come out and center themselves and access their witness. And once I understand that they can move into a sub-self and then back into their center and their witness, then I feel okay about regressing them as long as they're over the Skype or the internet, and then returning them to their center afterwards and having them separate from me as the facilitator and having them identify with their own inner therapist so that they are autonomous with the process.
Oh, okay. So then would they need to have someone there, maybe just to make sure that the computer doesn't go down or something? The connection doesn't go down, or what do you think?
I'm not well enough versed in how to deal with the computers, but I know that I wouldn't regress somebody unless I could return them to center.
Right.
And to be there for the entire process. And I would most prefer to have a follow-up for things that came up in the dream process after the regression on the next day.
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
But we've been doing phone counseling for 20 years now, so Skype is just another level of the same thing.
Oh.
So if you're using Skype, you always have the phone. We'll use the phone as a backup if Skype goes down. And Skype has been known to be problematic, but, sometimes it's cooperating like it is today.
Yes. Well, that's good, wonderful, because I had mixed feelings, and now that I do know, I can send people to people such as yourself, because I have people say, well, is there anybody in my area? Is there anybody in my area? They live in a backwoods place in Australia, and so I have nobody to give them, or they live in New Zealand, or, things like that, So definitely, that's good to know. It's really good. I wanted to know from a therapist's point of view.
Miesha, one of the advantages of Skype is that if they will show the camera on their face and their eyes are closed and you see this movement under the eyelids, it's called rapid eye movements,
right.
You can tell that they're getting pictures.
Right.
And it's a good cue for you as to when to shut up and let them have their process and when to ask them what's going on.
Right. Okay. Well,
that's important, though, what you're saying. There are a lot of people that are isolated. I remember one of our earlier clients, and this was doing just couples relationship, which we've been doing for 20 years or more, 30 years. They were in, Puerto Rico. They didn't have any money. And so we said, well, we'll just do these phone sessions. And they got a lot out of it. Sometimes they do a series of regressions or counseling. and over time we like to empower the individual. I don't want to addict anybody to therapy by any means.
Right.
There's 7.5 billion people with, I don't know, there's millions of experiencers. There's not enough therapists to go around. So
No.
I like to get people on their feet, direct them to the different programs that are coming up now to support everybody. And because for me, it's about the ascension and awareness and awakening of consciousness of the entire planet Earth and the human species. Because if we don't do it, it's kind of shitting it off the pot time. We have the potential of destroying the entire ecosystem and the planet, and I love this Earth and I love the human species.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here for the awakening of consciousness, so we don't have to have these. I was raised Christian, and in the Christian religion, you're preparing for doomsday. And I was raised during the Holy Grail. My goodness.
I'm going so fast. We'll be right back.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Please, anything but sitar music. Yeah, that's better. You're invited to Sacred Cow Barbecue. I'm your host, Patricia Aiken. My guests will free your mind from mainstream manure. No subject is off limits. Don't believe everything you think. It's BS. Just our collective belief system programmed into us. Question everything. Come hungry for truth, because that's what we're serving. Sacred Cow Barbecue, Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern in Studio B.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, got the Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm. And get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
Hi, join us on Monday nights for Odyssey at 10 p.m. Eastern Time in Studio B with your host, Michael David. We discuss all types of ancient and modern mysteries, from the Anunnaki to legends and mythology. We often have live guests such as well-known authors and experts on many esoteric topics. Join the intrigue and mystery every Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time in Studio B.
Hey everyone, it's Barbara Jean Lindsay, the Cosmic Oracle. If you have questions about your past lives or future plans, need answers from the cosmos about your love life or career, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the planet, check out my show, The Cosmic Oracle, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
The Secret Society Revealed. With your host, Joseph Atwell, author of Caesar's Messiah, the Roman Conspiracy to Invent Jesus, and Shakespeare's Secret Messiah, the groundbreaking discoveries that gives us a new understanding of how governments and elites use mind control to manipulate their subjects. Join Mr. Atwell as he lifts the veils of deceptions of our modern world. Mondays, 12 noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Revolution Radio.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Okay, and I have Janet Lesson. She is a therapist. She works with experiencers. She has so much information, so much knowledge. And you were finishing with a point before the break. So if you could go ahead.
What was I saying? Do you remember what I was saying, honey?
You're talking about the value of doing regression over the telephone or on Skype and not in person.
Right. There was a point I had, and now I've forgotten it, and I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. There's nothing like that. The going on break to make you forget that.
Right. I
You're
fell
talking
into
about
the commercials.
about the Puerto Rican couple who we did.
No, that was back a while ago. Anyway, I lost my point. If I think of it, I'll just speak up. I should have made a note for myself, but
that's great. It's all fine and
right.
You know, and I would love to have you and Dr. pop into group sometime, you know, like my Sunday group and everything, and give some of your wonderful expert information and such. So anytime at all. I know we have a trouble with you in the jungle. If you're out and about here in America, I'm not America, it's America there too, but in the mainland, you know, and you're available tomorrow, I'd love to have you come.
We'll see what we can do. We're actually we have guests, and you know.
I can understand that. I just wanted to let you know that would be lovely. People, you know, have an expert now and then. I like to bring experts into the group.
We'll make that happen. We'll make it so. The other thing is, you're in Vegas, and we're looking to go through Vegas for the Starworks USA conference, which is, I think, November, that weekend of the 11th or something. I don't know when you meet, but I was thinking that we could maybe come in for your meetup group.
Oh, that'd be marvelous. And have you talk to my meetup group. That'd be great. We'll set something up. We'll make that happen and have you stay at my home.
Sounds great. Oh, I'd love it. Thank you for the invitation. Be good. I'd love hanging out with you to get to know you better. So
yes, me too. So it's about Janet. I want to know, how did your experience begin? When did it begin? Tell us about, you know, your experiences and you know, you start from the beginning.
All right. Well, in the beginning, I was born, and I came in the veil. The book is called Dance of the Souls, Pierce the Veil. And the veil did not quite close all the way for me. So I came in remembering a lot of past lives.
Wow.
And initially, I called them ghosts, but looking back on the early years, it's a possibility that I was having extraterrestrial contact, as well as interdimensional, as well as discarnate beings. And I was living I was born in 1954, so in that context, in that paradigm, I wasn't aware of, you know, possibility of extraterrestrial experiences. I called everything ghosts. Mm-hmm. And so my childhood was full of ghosts and things that went bump in the night. And I basically, the primal initial years, I was able to, and this is going to sound so bizarre, you're going to think it's impossible, but I've had some validation on this. I was able to levitate in my crib. And my mother didn't know what to do with this child that she caught. She caught me levitating. Wow. And she thought it was the demon seed, because she was very Christian. And she didn't try to beat the devil out of me, but she tried to suppress that and humiliate me and bring in a lot of fear about this being called the devil to try to keep me from not doing these things that scared her, because she was home alone with me a lot of the time. It was the 50s and her husband was a mailman, my father, and he wasn't home most of the day, and I had an older brother and older sister, and they were already in school. I'm 5 years younger than my next siblings, my sister. So she didn't know what to do with this child that was not quite a normal child. Years later, I was at a conference, and a gentleman came up to the mic and was talking to the guests on the stage, and he started sharing that he had been levitating when he was an orphan in a Catholic, orphanage. And he said for 2, maybe almost up to 3 years of age, he would levitate, and the nuns would run around and pull him down and spank him, but he was just, he was such a rebel, he just would not stop. But finally, after like the age of 3 or 4, he stopped levitating. And so he said to the audience, has anybody out there levitated? Now, I had kind of hidden that experience into my subconscious because, that I was shamed out of it. But as soon as he said that, I told my husband, I'm Sasha, and I said, I'm going to go in the back and meet this guy. He invited us to, anybody who had experiences, to meet him back there. When I went to the back of the room, there were 13 other people besides that gentleman that remembered levitating. So this might be a common ability that humans have,
Wow.
but it is literally shamed and beaten out of us in infancy or childhood.
Oh my, that's wonderful. That's amazing. Well, I mean, it's not wonderful that they beat it out of you, but but that's amazing.
Right. So anyway, that was one of my earliest experiences, is being shamed and beaten out of that. But so I came in conscious, and I was aware that I was like I was a human being at the same time being this eternal, immortal being that has human experiences inside, a human avatar. This is, our forms are avatars. And we might choose to be extraterrestrials on other planets or in other dimensions, other realms. But this is an avatar, and I had this awareness of who I was as an eternal being. And so I realized that I was levitating. My mother's very Christian. That started to get repressed. But around 18 months of age, I was in my crib, and I was aware that I wasn't alone in the room. And suddenly all these beings, I think they were coming in their astral form or their spiritual form or their interdimensional form, and some might have been physical, but I was surrounded in my entire bedroom. I had the largest room in the house. I don't know why they gave it to me. I think because it was haunted, quote unquote. So I had all these beings, and they were coming to say goodbye to me. And they came one after another into up close to my face, and we were looking in each other's eyes, and we were sharing and diving into each other's souls. And so tears were coming to my eyes because it was this complete, eternal, divine love of my connection with all the beings of the universe. And then there was one final one that came up that seemed to be the leader of that group for that experience with me, and then there was this loud clap, and it says, "Now it's time to go. Now it's time to go be human." Right?
Oh my!
And it was a loud clap, like the dimensions were closing or the portal was closed. It sounded like thunder. It sounded like, I could imagine that no one else heard it. And when it happened, I started to cry because there was like this sharp disconnect from this eternal love and sensation and feeling of connected to all of creation. And now there I was alone in this form, disconnected human, and I started to cry. And then I was only about 18 months old, and my mother came in and said, why am I crying? And earlier I had been talking to her, so I was speaking at a very young age, and I opened my mouth, and it was garbled. It was talking baby talk. So that was so frustrating because I had this awareness of this higher level of being of my own self, but then I couldn't articulate like I had before. So I was babbled. Maybe that's what they did at the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
My ability to speak was babbled. And then some of these intense remembrances started to be repressed. I never forgot them, but in order to go through life as a human being, they had to be kind of toned down and put on the back burner so I could go experience what it was like being a human Earth child of the 50s.
Wow, amazing.
So that was probably around 1955, maybe 56. So the next critical incident was in 58, and I kind of had relaxed into being a child, and I was developing this friendship and relationship with this woman who was my mother. And my mother was very disturbed because I'm piecing it together. I think she was involved with some of the satanic ritual, because we're a bloodline family.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know her story. I'll never get the entire story, and I'm piecing it together now with what I know. This is what's critical for experiencers to get together to share about, their MyLabs and their satanic experiences and their experiences, because my poor mother didn't know how to handle this information.
Mm-hmm.
But she, too, I would catch her talking to ghosts. She was talking with other beings. And if I came up as a child and I tried to enter the room, sometimes I could sneak up behind her and I'd see that she was talking to somebody. It wasn't like she was cuckoo.
Uh-huh.
She was actually talking to somebody. But she would get so contracted when I would catch her, and then she would get angry and she'd chase me away. Because I'm sure, being raised Christian, she was afraid that she was dealing with demons or something. I'm not sure what was on her mind. So I had to deal with this mother who was dealing with the different realities, trying to be a normal 1950s Leave It to Beaver type mother, while she too was having experiences, and she had no support system back there at all. Mm-hmm. No one to talk to about that at all, because they would just say, they probably would have institutionalized her. That's right. What happened. So in 58, I was outside picking buttercups. So I'm thinking that might be spring. This is in Pennsylvania, and I was a very neat child, so I was making sure that all the stems were the same length, and I was making a very neat bouquet, and I had it just right, and I was coming around the side of the house, and there was this little barricade, a little tiny, like 1 foot tall, kind of picket fence type thing that wasn't very sturdy, but it was just kind of blocking the side yard there from the sidewalk, and I stepped over it, and when I was in mid-step, excuse me, suddenly I was on board a tremendous, beautiful, very beautiful mothership. I want to call it a mothership, because I had the sense that there were many, many beings that this was their home. They lived there. It wasn't just some kind of military thing like they're trying to make it like Star Trek or Star Wars. This was very spiritual, very warm and inviting. And I was treated like royalty, almost like I was this eternal being. So once again, I was in awareness of my eternal self while I was still in a 4-year-old physical human form. Mm-hmm. I was taken to it looks like they constructed a theater for me of some kind, or made it. I got the sensation it didn't really exist all the time, that they were able to, with their minds, create experiences probably like the holodeck, right? Like the holodeck, right? Mm. So I was in this, looked like a theater, and there was a very large screen, and I remember that I hadn't yet been invited into a theater in real life as a human child, because that wasn't the practice back in the 50s to take your child to a movie theater. People are more likely to do that now, but back then that was, you left your children with a babysitter. You didn't tend to take them. So I was 4 and I hadn't yet been to a theater. So I was kind of shocked, like, what is this? Oh, and so there was, every time I had a question come to my mind, though, there was a gentle, it wasn't really a voice, but it was like an answer came, because it's all telepathic. And they're not limited to this human language, which kind of is the babbling and the sub-parsing from the connection to the totality. It's language pulls you into using your tongue and using your vocal cords. Mm-hmm. So they're communicating on a different level. So if I'm expressing something in human language, they're answering in impressions and ideas and concepts.
Right.
So I'm getting all the concepts about what's going on. Totally supported, and I begin to sit front and center, and the screen, they wait for me to get centered and relaxed, and I'm viewing the screen, and they start showing views of the Earth. And the very first scene is the Earth, and there are beams coming from 3 directions. It's like a side view of the Earth, and the Earth blows up into smithereens. While having images on the screen in front of me, which is kind of the 3D human level, I'm getting also all kinds of images of what's going on. Mm-hmm. So as the Earth is blowing up, I'm seeing the destruction of life and fires, and what happens when this explosion happens. So I'm seeing it on many levels. Part of it's from my physical 3D eyes, human eyes, and part of it is in my mind's eyes, which can embrace and hold a lot more information than your physical 3D eyes.
Right.
So they're showing me the worst case scenario of where humanity and the Earth can go. And then the next scene, the Earth is whole and complete, but there's a lot of destruction. And I'm seeing, it's like I'm seeing all the different scenes in different parts of the Earth and the destruction. Uh-huh. Then that scene fades and I'm seeing another one, and there's less destruction and more life. And so on through the continuum from, destruction to more and more life for 24 different scenes. These are potential future histories, multiverses, however you want to symbol it, realities. And the last 4, 5, or 6 are rather utopian in nature. Everything was beautiful. Mm-hmm. And then they stopped showing me images, and they asked me telepathically, which reality, which universe, which multiverse do you wish to experience? And I had made a decision without knowing they were going to ask me which one I liked best. And it wasn't the one at the very end where everything was complete, but it was about 3 back from the very last presentation, and there was enough to do. We need something to do. If we're going to be alive, we need to have things to do. If we have everything done and it's just all, that's very pleasant, but there's something about the human species that is here to do things and accomplish things and be co-creators with source and existence. And at that point, they sent me back to the Earth in my 3D physical form, and I was putting my foot down. I had started, my foot was up in the air, and it was high noon, very, beautiful spring day, but it was warm. And as I was returned, I put my foot down and the sun was setting.
Ah.
So many hours had gone by.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was back here, I'm thinking, well, why didn't my mother come looking for me? That was one of my thoughts. But the communication continued for a short while, and they said, you have come here to do something which will benefit all of humankind. Now, a lot of experiencers kind of get this messianic type message, of that they're here to do something important, that this is their life mission, this is their goal, this is why they were born. And I hadn't been exposed to church yet at 4 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was I had this awareness to not go in and tell those people that are your family, or my mother, father, brother, sister. Don't tell them what had just transpired.
No.
To keep that to myself, that I would not get a good reaction from them.
No.
But what I did was I approached my mother later, and I knew they were going to church. And so I'm back in my 4-year-old human form. I've had this experience, but for my own protection, I'm only able to articulate on a 4-year-old level.
Correct.
And I say to my mother, I want to go to church with you because I want to talk to God. So in my mind, now the ETs were, they were God. They were above in a different level of awareness, and I was confused what they go to worship God. What does that mean, right? Mm-hmm. And she was going to see if I could be admitted to Sunday school, but you have to be 5 years of age, right?
All right.
And I was very disappointed. And I said, no, because I wanted to have more of that experience of connecting with, those beings, which I felt more at home there than, I've always had that stranger to strange land type experience being here on Earth. It's like, no, this is where I'm more comfortable. And so I said, no, you've got to go talk to them again. They'll let me in. And she didn't quite believe me, but she did it. For some reason, my mother used to listen to me, even though I was a child. She had a sense that there was something more than this child person, and that I was very wise on some level. So she asked, and they let me in. So I think there was some intervention to let me in to go to Sunday school. But I soon, within a few years, it's like, no, this isn't God.
Yes.
Disillusioned. Yeah. So, do you have any questions or feedback or comments at this point?
So far, I find it interesting how you were describing the holodeck and the different kinds of views, the screen, that screen that just is in itself a 3D kind of thing, and many of us have had those lives that have been shown on Earth in different ways and different disasters. So yeah, absolutely. And also, I want to confirm another thing: how the information from them comes through is not in words; it's in whole ideas. You also see when they're talking, you see visions. I guess you might I call them visions and stuff like that. So it's very, very, very interesting that we hear this over and over again from people. But when you came into the group and you shared that, I went, wow, yeah, that's right on. That's exactly how it is. It's just different than words. And so it sounds like you were hearing galactic languages a long time ago. And
yes, right. And somehow I have an internal interpreter within. I think we are more than we think we are, right? So it's built in. I didn't need to have, broken down in the language and try to translate it in some kind of universal translator. Somehow I was able to process it and translate it. Mm-hmm. Dr. Lesson has a comment or something.
I find it useful if you do get a screen memory and a being, and you can't tell who it is, or it seems to be someone that you know and it doesn't seem right. You just imagine that they're wearing a mask and take the mask off and see who's under there and see if there's another mask that you're now looking at. And same with the scenery of a screen memory. You can say, oh, well, strike the set. Imagine they're lifting that set up and you're seeing what's behind that and what's behind that. I find that useful. And if you start to hit one that really feels right, you'll know it.
Aha. And I bet you do that in your regression.
That's right.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. What a wonderful message. Yes.
So, I guess I'll go back to the story. There was one incident I recall where my family was in the family room and we're watching television, and they were trying to launch, humanity was trying to launch rockets up into space. And they had these videos, or these movies, I guess, back then, of them crashing, all the time crashing, burning. And I turned to my family, and I just was astonished. And I said, what? You mean we're not in space yet? And they said, no, silly little girl, we're not in space yet. And I just started sobbing because I had already been having all this contact. And so then I felt even more isolated, like, what can I do here?
Right. Oh,
so there was next incident that kind of tied me into the extraterrestrial information actually ties into where we go when we die. And Whitley Strieber has described there is a connection between the different dimensions and where we go when we die. So in 50, this was later in the year, so the going on board ship was probably May of 58, excuse me, and then around July or so, I know it was summer, I had a rape happen. Not a genital rape, but an oral rape. And this is part of the satanic stuff. My family on both sides are Masons. Right. The Masons are, I think, arranged marriages.
Uh-huh.
and they might be multi-generational, going back through the years. But they're the ultimate bigots, and they want to keep the bloodlines pure. So we're both in this kind of the bastard line of the Illuminati. They have their bastards out there because I guess if they ever really need to have warm bodies to fill positions, they can try to enlist us.
Really? Oh.
I'm piecing it together. It's the best way to assemble it. But I know my grandfather was a very high mucky muck.
Mm.
On my father's side, he was. I heard a story at his funeral that he had formed the Pittsburgh Masons. I can't validate this. I've been trying to piece this together. And then I remember seeing my grandfather on my mother's side in a strange costume and asking as a child, what is he doing in that outfit? And my mother explained that he was a Mason. And I'm sure the people that are just in the lower level of the Masons, it's a wonderful community experience. You know, they're supporting their communities and their families, and they have nice circuses and, you know, events. But the upper level, there seems to be something pretty famous.
Yes. Oh. Yes, there is.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Anti-aircraft guns went into action against unidentified aircraft in the Los Angeles area shortly after 3 a.m. Pacific wartime this morning.
We are far stronger than we were 10 weeks ago.
Zero corners, all hands at your battle stations.
Nervous count your toes. I'll do the mastermind around here.
You who have not seen it do not know what hell looks like from the top.
Bam, check it out every Tuesday and Saturday on Revolution Radio. It's a double dose of the internationally recognized renegade military historian Douglas Dietrich.
You'll stay right where you are until I tell you to move out.
Yeah, that's right. Tuesdays from 10 to midnight Eastern Time. Join Douglas Dietrich as he exposes the truth in hidden history on his show Critical Omissions. And then our human weapon of mass destruction is back once again to take your calls on Saturday Night Firing Lines. Both from 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Only on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website and go look at the details yourself. It's, again, www.freedomslips.com/season2013.htm and get your favorites. First come, first serve, 7 to 21 days for delivery. Thank you. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps, including me. Later.
We've got to stop them! They're going to kill us all!
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And in case you're tuning in, I have Janet Lesson and her husband, Dr. Sasha Lesson. And Janet's sharing about her own experiences, and they are really amazing and exciting. And she's now, just before the break, was talking about the Mason connection in her life. And I would like to ask, did they turn you into a Job's daughter?
Say that again. Turn me into a...
Were you in Job's daughter? Did they put you in Job's daughters?
No, I'm not familiar. What are the Job's daughters?
Oh well, I was a Job's daughter. That's the teenage girls for Masons. The Masons, the Job's daughters, the Eastern Stars, and the Demolayans are the boys, and the Eastern Stars are the mothers. Was your mother an Eastern Star?
No. So there was some kind of, they were hiding the Mason aspect of the family. My grandfather was very high up, but I'll go back. I forgot an episode that was very critical.
Okay.
And these things I tend to censor because they just sound so bizarre, but we have, explored this in depth through hypnosis and other piecing together, information from the family and stuff.
Sure.
And from pictures and reconstructing as best we can. So when I was literally a newborn, very young, probably under 6 months of age, my mother and father came. It actually was still cold, so I was born in February. So I'd say it was the first, maybe March, April. It was still cold, and they came and took me as a baby away from my mother. I remember this very clearly, and then we've explored this. And I asked Sasha, where did they take me? And this is before I really understood the whole, we've been doing this for 18 years now. I've been with my husband, Dr. Lesson, so we've been looking at these things. So they came and took me to the Masonic Lodge. Now, my grandmother was not allowed past like an initial waiting room way at the front. They let her come in out of the cold. She didn't have to sit in the car. But she, and my grandfather, for some reason, was not comfortable really holding me much. I was afraid of him and he was afraid of me. That's the best way to explain it. So he carried me, though. He carried me into this room with a gigantic table. And it was in Pittsburgh, a lot of dark wood, natural wood, stayed dark, and a huge table, very shiny, and they were all dressed. And I want to say they were in suits. I think they were in suits. I'm blocking it, but they looked all pretty much. It wasn't any kind of like Ku Klux Klan robes or anything, but they were wearing something that was pretty uniform across the table. And they set me down at the table. And I stood up, and I was my immortal self. Now, I was still only like the size of a newborn, so how long was I? Probably less than a foot tall, right?
Wow.
But I was able to, somehow my body morphed, and I was able to stand up. Now, I haven't reconstructed the conversation, because when we try to go there, it's not time. It's not time for that information. But I have a basic understanding that they were asking me about, the nature of the cosmos and who I was, and
right.
And I basically told them the gig's up. This is it. Guys aren't going to be enforcing your reality on humanity for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm 61 and a half, so that was, 61 years ago. Mm. And I knew it wasn't going to be then, but somewhere in this immediate time span, probably, who knows, between now and the next 10 years, 15 years, the paradigm will shift into the one of higher consciousness and awareness.
Yeah.
So part of that's been with me my entire life, and I know that from my higher self and my eternal being aspect of myself. So every time people go doom and gloom and Armageddon, I never bought into it, because I knew on this level that the gig was up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm very confident. And I look at myself and I go, well, how do I know, right? Because we're very complex beings. We have some personalities, and I look at myself and think, well, why do I act like that? Why do I act like I know it all? And I go back there and I go, well, part of me does know it all. Part of me is connected to Source. Part of me knows the entire game and the totality of creation and the whole continuum and the whole matrix and everything. There's a part of all of us that knows this.
Right.
And we just need to access it somehow. And I can't tell another person how to access it. I have my path of how I created awareness of this information. And it's been through basically a tantric, spiritual, meditative practice, a yogic practice of going inward and reflection and contemplation, and then having a support group and therapists and counselors and friends that I can share my concepts, and we piece the puzzle together, and we come up with all the potentials are there. It's like, what reality do you want to co-create? If you don't like what's going on, you don't like the channel you're watching, you don't like the experiences you have, you can change the channel. Yes. By changing your perspective and changing, something. Just change the channel, change it within, and then the external world changes as well. So that's what I've learned. So go ahead.
I have a question about that particular experience where, as this this very knowing and spiritual child, you stood up and told them that it's, jig's up, it's over, kind of thing. Was there some kind of a ceremony that they tried to put you through, or anything like that, or was it basically they were talking to the divine within you because they knew it was there and awake?
I think they were looking for this consciousness level coming through their bloodline somewhere.
Uh-huh.
And I got the impression they were shocked when I stood up, but they knew that was a possibility. But had I not stood up and I still remained an infant, they may have done something with me ritually. But there was some kind of, much later in my life, I encountered a man. I'm not going to reveal his name because I don't think that would be proper. Mm-hmm. But he said that they were tracking me coming in. So,
yes,
powers that be, the government, the New World Order, the Illuminati, we each have a soul signature, and they can track those that are. I'm probably an Anunnaki soul, but I might also be a Galzu, which is the species that the Anunnaki were aware of, that were kind of a higher level of awareness of the totality of existence. When we come into this 3D level, whether we're human or alien, extraterrestrial from other planets, when you're in this 3D level, you have a certain level of awareness, and you may not have the awareness of the totality of existence and the entire continuum. So this Galzu, the Anunnaki said, the Galzu is connected with the creator of all. Mm-hmm. So the Galzu was an emissary of the creator of all. So I know my soul is part Galzu, connected to the creator of all, but then I have an Anunnaki essence of myself. And when I was this eternal being, I think they were addressing the Anunnaki and Galzu essence of myself, the thread of consciousness connected with that. And then I was able, and I think we're all able to shapeshift and change our avatars probably at will, but this is a repressed ability of ourselves, and part of that was repressed by the Anunnaki when they came in and did their hybridization program with humanity, so that we wouldn't outnumber and destroy them, because they became afraid of us at a point during their history when I think it was Inanna, but there might have been other episodes, but Inanna was wounded in front of humans, and then the humans became aware, the gods, they may be immortal, but they're not invulnerable, and they can be hurt and perhaps killed. So they started to implement a control system of, first they didn't want us to become like the gods 100%, so they turned off 256 strands of DNA. So somehow in this Masonic episode, I was, as a soul, turning my DNA on just for that episode, because I went back into my human essence after that episode, just to deliver this message from creation, that you guys can't get away with this forever, that the time has come for this to shift. And of course, for my own protection, that memory was repressed until I met my husband and he did the session. And of course, I had the screen memory. If you go and you just write down all the episodes in your life that are weird, and you get a competent therapist to work with you, you may or may not get information, but that's what I did. I started to just mark down these incidences. Part of it I remembered, but once you go into it, it's amazing what comes forth. Did you have something you want to say?
Wow.
Just at the head of the Masons and all these secret societies, there's been a change. They originally started by Enki, one of our geneticists who adapted the Anunnaki genome to Earth to make the slave race, that's us, and then eventually, and it was to preserve the knowledge for humanity. But then this was infiltrated and ultimately taken over by the agents of his runaway son, Marduk, or Ra, who basically had a principle of divide and conquer, keep people in different groups and pitted against each other, different religions and pitted against each other. And then the king of Nibiru, Anu, abdicated in favor of Nanar, and then King Nanar sent his agents, and they infiltrated, and they started assassinating Marduk's agents, and this war went on for a long time with the humans just caught in between us, until just recently when the Galzu again intervened, and Marduk was relieved of having to be the bad guy, and the family of the Anunnaki have united, and we are now entering the next Seta Yuga, or the age of Aquarius or Enki, so celebrate.
All right, so then the Anunnaki, let's say off planet, have the ones on planet haven't got the message that it's changed now.
That's right. They have gotten the message. My contacts among the Anunnaki have said that Marduk is definitely relieved. He is repentant. He's sorry what he did. He felt compelled to give us this adversity and diversity, and he wishes to redeem himself. Don't know if I trust him, but that he wishes to redeem himself and bring on the age of peace.
This is just a taste, folks, of what's going to be like next week too. Wow, yes. I can't wait. It's going to be really interesting next week as well. Well, this is amazing. So, please, go on. What?
Well, there's another very critical incident where I got a piece of the nature of existence, so to speak. So in '58, I was. And this is part of the satanic, the Masonic part. Apparently, the Masons say they might be doing a variation of swinging, because my mother, in this episode, my mother was with a neighbor who was part of this circle, that were all involved with the Masons, and they were going to have sex, or they just had sex, or whatever. But I was a toddler, and they had no clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I won't go into details, but I ended up doing this, and this was like a ritual thing, right?
Yeah.
To try to shatter me.
Right.
The man, shoved his penis down my throat.
Yeah.
And I was dead. There's a point in your throat where you choke. So I choked. I'm about closer to 5 years old at this point, and I'm out of my body.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dead.
Mm-hmm.
And I meet with my guides and my committee, not just my personal guide, but a committee, and we're evaluating what I should do, stay or go back. In the meanwhile, my mother was very upset that this happened. She actually tried to intervene. She was hitting on the man. He stopped when I went limp. And then they pulled in the neighbor, lived right next door, who was probably part of this inner circle as well. And he came in, he tried to revive me, and he said to them, June was my mother's name, and this other fellow, you've got to go call the police and turn yourself in. She's dead.
Yeah.
So he had worked on me for quite a while. And I'm watching this. I'm out of body. I'm zooming through. I'm going up and seeing the sweat on their brow. And, I'm able to go close up and far away and just look at it from all kinds of perspectives. My guides are talking to me. At the same time, I'm being shown what would the world be like if I died at that point. The multiverses. But this was from the personal perspective. Mm-hmm. How would being dead affect my mother, my father, my brother, my sister? Mm-hmm. And all the possibilities were very negative for my family. And so I made a decision. It was up to me. Do you want to go back? And I said, yeah, I've got to go back. I'm not going to let those things pan out for any one of them. Mm-hmm. And so they showed me how to fix my throat, which had been damaged, and there's a reason your body you die. So they taught me what to do in that moment, and I came back into my body. Mm-hmm. When I came into my body, the exchange from the higher realm to this 3D realm was me reintegrating, made the body stand up, and it was glowing.
Oh.
And I was smiling because I had just been in an arena of divine love. It felt like I was swimming in love. It was just so overwhelming, and returned to this level. And so I was very happy. The trauma was gone in an instant because I spent all that time with my guides, and I was, I'm coming back to do this mission, what I have to do. And I stand up and they go, hi. And the two men and my mother turned and they screamed. And they ran out of the room because I was dead, right? And then they left, and I went, oh wow, it was kind of shocking that they ran out. But I became overwhelmed with tiredness because there's such a difference in the vibratory frequencies of the two levels, mm-hmm. and so I fell asleep. And there's a thing called lacune where you forget what happened, and that remained deep in my subconscious until years later when I met Dr. Lesson, and he helped me recover that piece of information. But the timelines that I was shown on board ship and the timelines I was shown as when I was dead were very similar. The whole energetic experience and the way it was conveyed. Mm-hmm. There was extreme similarities between the guides in the realm of the dead and the extraterrestrials on ship on how they conveyed information. Excuse me.
Ah, wow. Gee, when you come and stay with me, we're going to have a long talk because I've had similar stuff, and wow, I just have these screen memories that I have to get through. Interesting. Wow. And I bet you there's a lot of ritual abuse people who have had, and perhaps maybe that's why we're still alive, because they can't. They couldn't.
Yeah, I'm a hard one to kill. I don't know. I guess I believe in bullets or whatever, but something, and that's what scared my mother, because this child should be dead, over and over. Mm-hmm. There was one time where she drowned me. She pushed me. She did not know what to do. She loved me, but she was she was split. You know how it works with this ritual abuse.
Yeah, they're mind controlled, and
she was very mind controlled. She was my handler, but she couldn't handle me because of who I am in the continuum. So we came to peace with each other. We became friends, but it was never the type of relationship that one should have mother to daughter in the normal quote unquote world. It was just we came to peace with each other, and we began to accept each other. She realized I'm not going anywhere.
Right, and and no matter what kinds of things they do to split you and put you in the altar, to use you, you found a way, or not found a way, but you're able to go through it.
I wasn't very much use for them in their traditional program. I was an anomaly to them, and no one knew what to do with me, and so I was aware that I was being watched, and there was someone that was aware that I was being watched. So they told me that they had to basically block my thoughts and kind of turn off a locator for a while, so that they could protect me and that they cannot find me very easily. So this was during my childhood. Apparently, at some point there was intervention. I got this telepathic message that they were coming in to protect me, that nobody could ever do anything to me because they were there to protect me, and they were the good forces of the continuum. And but there was also the frustration. I would say, is it time for me to know all this? Because I was now in this repressed level. There was awareness of some level. There was something beyond this 3D reality, this experience that I was calling a lifetime. But no, it's not time for you to know, and you will know when it's time. So I'm keeping one eye on the clock.
Yeah.
Any more questions or observations?
Well, I actually do have a couple. Is being the royalty, is it the bloodline? Is it the DNA? What is it, do you feel? I mean, what's your blood type, if I may ask?
O negative.
You're negative. Okay, so you're RH negative or O negative? I mean, I don't understand the whole thing, but
I just know I'm O negative.
No, it's O and RH negative, Janet.
O and RH negative. Okay, Dr. Lesson knows.
Okay, so that is the thing, the RH, the negative. Okay.
And this body is all Northern European.
Yes.
I know a lot of people say I got Native American. No, none of that. These people that were my ancestors, my sister did the history because she became a Mormon. So she's tracked us back. We came over on the Mayflower. These people they don't breed with other people for the most part. They stay with their lineage.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's intentional or orchestrated on some level.
Well, I think it's been orchestrated from the very beginning, back in the Syrian and Egyptian and all of that. It's been that bloodline that they kept clean and pristine, or whatever you want to call it. So that would be France, Germany.
Yep, French, German, English, Irish, Scottish. All that Northern European. And I met Janet Swerdlow, and she said that she had been at some of the rituals with me. So apparently I've been taken, but not for anything on the dark side. She said there's a faction where they do some kind of spiritual stuff, and she was part of it. And she said that I was her twin, and so she's a Merovingian. So this is from the Jesus bloodline, which we're thinking in our research that Jesus is actually Enki, but we'll go into that next.
Oh, okay. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Oh,
Sasha wants to say something.
The RH negative factor means that you're lacking as much of the Homo erectus genes that our geneticists used to initially create the slave race. The Anunnaki kept breeding with the prettiest girls in every generation, and so there's less and less and less of the Homo erectus, that's the ancestor of Bigfoot, in the bloodlines, the RH negative bloodlines, people like Janet.
And so what would be more in the genetic line? Like, say, just real quick, I know this is probably a long answer, but the Anunnaki, what would we call them if they're not Homo erectus? What
They're Homo sapiens sapiens.
So they're human.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Well, that kind of distills that whole thing about people saying that the reptilians are Anunnaki.
The reptilians do have, they are geneticists. All the spacefaring races are geneticists, and they're constantly doing experiments. And our scientists already have learned how to specifically cut in at certain loci, add genes, for example, immunization genes for this or that or the other thing, in a way that passes them on from the recipient to the whole line that descends genetically from that recipient. It's all the spacefaring races do this.
That's how they make cats that glow in the dark.
That's how they make what?
Cats that glow in the dark. Have you seen the YouTubes? They make glowing phosphorus cats.
Oh, no, I haven't
by mixing what glows, fish or something.
Yeah,
there's a fish that glows, and they put it in with the cat DNA, and you can get a cat that glows.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
You never lose your cat in the dark.
Oh, you never lose your cat in the dark. At this time, I forgot to do something. I just wanted to tell everybody, Revolution Radio is listener supported, so please don't forget to donate to them. I was just so enthralled in having this show and getting every inch and piece of what she and her husband has to say that I forgot that. But please donate, because it's really important to keep having shows like this and other shows. Thank you. Please go on.
All right, here's another piece of my puzzle here, and I'm not going to get through everything, so I'm keeping one eye on the clock. I started having, I call them the duels with the reptilian who I call George. And I'm still pretty young, but this went on from about age 5, maybe 6, till I was 12. So I would be coming home from playing with my cousins who lived 4 houses down. My mother, this is the 50s. You could let your kids out and play in the neighborhood in the 50s, and you didn't really have to watch them because the next mother was watching them. We would rotate as a group through the different backyards.
Right. You didn't come in until the lights came on.
I was out until the lights were going down, and all the other kids got called in. I had total freedom to do what I wanted, but I would go home because nobody else was left, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm coming home, and it's dusk, and I would come. I was always a rebel, so I would come through the back alleyway. I was supposed to come down the front, which is safer, right. But no, I came through the alleyway, and I was looked over at my neighbor's, my best friend's house. And her backyard faced the alleyway, and this the whole kind of horizon there would turn liquid, and this being came through a portal. Piecing it together is I didn't know how to symbol it back then, but that was probably a Stargate, a portal was opening. This being would step in. It was hooded. It looked like the Grim Reaper. I couldn't make out its face or. What I pieced together is my mind was blocking the face because it was so foreign to my awareness of what a person can be that I couldn't quite bring that into my conscious mind. Right. And this being would try to suck my soul out through my third eye and crown chakras, and I'd be terrified, like my heart was racing 50 miles a minute. And kind of paralyzed. I couldn't move while this exchange was going on. And finally, this being would begin to get through a message to me telepathically, oh, that's who you are. And somewhere I would break free, run into the house, go in through the back door, close the door, and I literally just closed the door and, fall to the ground because I was breathing so hard and I was so terrified. And of course, once again, I'd say I can't tell those people that are my family what was going on there. Right. But that lacunae that came into play when I was orally raped would come in. Explain how the lacunae works.
That just means there's a gap in your memory, and it's protecting you from being overwhelmed.
Right. So the severe trauma for you experiencers out there, if you can't remember, it's not your fault. You may have perceived the experience as very traumatic. So this was my experience. And this kept going on. This was a Groundhog Day thing. I would go down the alley again. I would have this experience again. This went on from, like I said, age 4, 5, 6, till I was 12 years old. I remember the last time I broke free from George, and I slid to the ground and sitting there on the kitchen floor and going, I can't, and I would be angry. I would go, oh no, this again. Why am I not remembering this? You know, and it would happen over and over. And at 12, I said, I'm never going to forget this again. And I knew that was it. That was the last time I forgot. Now, looking back on this, I realized that and I read some information, and I got this piece of the puzzle. This is why it's really great sharing with other experiencers, that the reptilians, and this was a reptilian species, and I'll tell you how I knew that, but the reptilians, their telepathic communication is different than other species. And it's harder to take physically until you learn how to adapt to their vibratory frequency, because they are in another, they're kind of a multi-dimensional being that can go easily between third and fourth. And so my perception that they were sucking my soul out of my brain, you know, out of my crown chakra, was just they were trying to teach me how to communicate with them telepathically, that they weren't the evil, nasty beings that I was making them out to be. It was my fear because I didn't understand.
Wow. Just one little quick thing. I had a reptilian. I wasn't sure I did at the time what it was, you know, but I have since then. I felt set on me at night and was doing that sucking thing, and I went, you know, they're just trying to suck up my soul. And I'm wondering now, I thought it was a bad thing. I never did come around thinking that it was anything good. I'll have to look more into that one, that screen memory of that.
Right. So that's, if we ever get together in person, we could do some sessions, because I'm curious too. I'd like to, I'm curious. It's like, let's do a session.
Funny thing now, they communicate with me a lot now.
Yes, yes.
I've learned how to hear them and understand them and stuff. So, yeah. Wow, fascinating. Wow. You know, I think that your story is going to open up a lot of doors for people. This is a phenomenal story. Now, is your book that you wrote, is it all about your story, or have you written a book all about your story yet?
Well, I wrote a book called Dance of the Souls, Pierce the Veil, which is like the book one with the idea that it's a series. And I introduced my past lives in it. So it's like a weaving of my ET experiences, my spiritual experiences, and my past lives. So it's kind of very complicated. So I stopped. I said at one point, I go, this book will be 1,000 pages. So I had to stop and say, this is part one, and part two, part three. And it's very therapeutic going through your life that way, especially when you've had a lifetime full of non-ordinary experiences. Because as a human, you know, we judge and criticize these experiences because, you know, all kids want to be normal, right? So I'm not normal.
Right.
Why can't I just be normal, right?
Right. Wow.
So I have my awareness of my experiences as Nima, the Anunnaki, and my becoming aware of my multidimensional self, that my incarnations have not all been human.
Right. So what happened?
That's it too.
Can you give us a few of them?
Say that again?
Can you give us a few of them?
Past lives.
Oh, the past lives?
Yeah. Your incarnations that
Nima
have not been human.
The Nima is the Anunnaki goddess that was the co-creator of humanity with Enki and Nagashita, also known as Thoth or Thoth. And she was the geneticist that discovered why the Homo sapiens weren't coming out the way they wanted them to. They wanted them to be intelligent, that they could take direction, that they could. They had a problem with us holding our bladder. We would just wet ourselves. They had all kinds of problems creating human beings. And so she said, well, we need to put it in the uterus, this admixture, they called it, where they put the DNA together. it had to be mixed in a vessel of clay instead of the glass.
With the zygote in it, honey.
With the zygote, right. So it had to, so we actually have Earth DNA in our mixture, and it had to be carried in in an Anunnaki womb. So when it came down to that revelation, Enki said, "Oh, put it in my wife." It was an arranged marriage. "Oh, put it in my wife." And she said, "No, I could not subject someone else to my experiment. If anybody's going to test this hypothesis, I'm not going to put them at risk. I will carry the first human." So I identify with this thread of consciousness, and I'm getting a lot of her memories. And there's a phenomenon we're exploring with this research we're doing into the nature of souls and Anunnaki. So apparently there can be a soul that is bringing threads of itself through many different forms. So there's a lot of people now that are saying, "I'm Enki, I'm Radakmar." There's a lot of people that are saying, "I'm Jesus." And so rather than invalidate and say there's one Jesus and everybody else is crazy, we're looking at the phenomenon which came through with the Michael Newton Institute, that souls are more complex things than we can imagine they are, and that they can, an advanced soul or a very old soul can send a thread of essence into many forms at once. So I acknowledge that I am a thread of consciousness with Nima, and Nima is here trying to, help humanity evolve, because we're all her children. She's got, 7.5 billion children, and she loves us. She loves us. We are all her babies, and she doesn't want to see us die in some horrendous Planet X, Earth changes, apocalypse, World War III.
Right.
And so I identify with that, and sometimes when I, like you were talking about automatic writing, when I go into, and I don't call it channeling, it's like a download, or it's like a reconnect with who I am at this higher level. There's a plan for us, so we won't have to experience this huge, I call it apocalypso. A lot of people are rooting for the apocalypse, which is blowing my mind. And I'd say to them, "Do you really want your mother or your wife or your husband or your son or your baby to go through this extreme process, dying in horrendous ways in fires or floods or whatever?" No. So let's change that channel.
Let's change that. Absolutely. Right. Wonderful. So I have a question. Did you not remember most of your childhood other than just these few screen things that were very weird, screen memories that were very weird, and then as you worked on it in a matter of a lot of years, probably it took, then is when you started remembering your childhood? Was it?
It's slightly different than that. It's like, how we have memories which are very like at the surface and you can access just in your life. I think our minds are kind of putting things in file folders.
Right.
So it was like I didn't access that, so I could do what I needed to do. I needed to go to school. I needed to get good grades. I needed to watch Star Trek. I needed to interact with my friends. I needed to spend most of my waking time being human and interacting and learning what it was like to walk the world as a human. So these memories were in file folders, and they would come in, just like memories do in real life. They would just come in spontaneously sometimes, but I would just say, I can't really deal with that now. I can't address that now because I have to go to school.
Right.
She had a sugar-coated memory. She remembered the good things so she could tell, and she thought she had an ideal childhood with hardly anything bad until.
Right. Yes. So that's what I did. I made, I had a difficult relationship with my mother, but in order to get through life with my mother, I was only focusing on the good parts of her and the good parts of our relationship. It wasn't until I met my beloved Dr. Lesson that we started to explore my childhood abuse. And it wasn't until my mother died. My psyche was not ready to unleash the horrendous experiences I had at my, Masonic handler mother. And then finally, in therapy, it was really good to let go of it, to explore, to cathartic, to release. There were a lot of tears.
Right.
There was hurt. There was anger. And I did the work on myself so I could be a clear vessel, a channel for this light process of evolution. If you start with self, right? I've got to wake up, become conscious myself.
Sure. Right.
And then I can really be there for humanity on some other level. And it wasn't until I did the work of myself that, things opened up for me, like the radio shows and doing conferences and being a facilitator of other people. Who am I to fix and repair other people when I'm broken myself? So therapist, physician, heal thyself, right, type of thing.
Exactly, right.
So when she had the realization, she started throwing up and she threw out all this sugar-coated stuff that she had swallowed and put out for other people's consumption, and the truth hit her like a ton of bricks.
Right.
Wow.
But I was safe. I could melt down. I had to melt down to my core to to get out all this stuff because it was affecting my health.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm doing much, much better. And there's always pieces of the puzzle. It's an ongoing process. And you know that. You have mysteries.
Yes. Wow. I knew little bits, but I had no idea that this was the experience, and this is just phenomenal. Is there so as a child, most of this was happening when you were a younger child, and say in your teenage, had you just kind of went on over to being a human and forgot about everything, or was these things? What I'm trying to say, I'm just blown away by your story. Did it continue on? Did you keep having these experiences with your
oh yes
family and
oh yes
okay
That's why there's no way to get through it all. I'll eventually get the YouTube made. I don't know how to do it all, but I've got the traditional nose implant. I've got the nasal the implant behind the ear. They would always check up on me. I was like about 12 when I came home. Maybe 13 and 14, I came home from playing, as a teenager out visiting friends. And I'm coming home, and suddenly the whole world changes. There's no cricket sounds. There's no cars. And the dimensions shift. You can feel it. It's almost like it sends those truth bumps up your spine. And I turn around, and there's a cigar-shaped ship right just tree height, very large. I can see inside the craft, and they're just saying, we're just letting you know we're here. It stayed for so long, I finally said, I'm going to bed now. Thank you for showing yourself to me. I would see these huge, I always see things in the sky. I invite my friends. Do you want to see UFOs? Let's tell our parents we're going to go sleep out tonight. There was something about me that if I was part of the experience that other people would see. And I want to make sure we have enough time to do Johnston Atoll, but I'll just briefly skim over. When I started having sex with and I got into some relationships, I told my lovers, you got to be careful sleeping with me because weird things happen. And they did. I had a ship. I was in my early 40s, all through my all the years things happened, but in my early 40s, I was in Honolulu, and I had a new lover, and I had left the dysfunctional marriage, but this ship parked 14 floors. It was like a car pulled up to right outside of my window, 14 floors up, just stood there, hovered there, and the craft was in front of it, like parked itself right in the middle of the window, and then the beings were coming through the door. They took us. I have to explore this one. I don't have enough time in the days to explore all the episodes. But they returned me and my lover, so our heads were together. It was like, you don't sleep like that. We woke up literally with our foreheads together, and it's like they're jokesters, and we simultaneously. It's like they leave the vibe shift. They make you go unconscious. You think you're sleeping. You wake up. We're literally looking each other in the eyes, And we went, what the? We knew. And he was an experiencer. And he says, oh, they're screwing with us.
Yep.
I had an episode where I had a lover, and we were returned on our backs, flat on our backs. Now, normally I sleep on my side, or spooning, right? So we're flat on our backs, a natural position. We simultaneously open up our eyes. I see something out of the corner of my eye, and so did he, and he flips down the sheet. There's blood. And we flip it down again. Blood. And simultaneously, we throw the sheet off. There's blood. It looks, I was waiting for the horse head, from the, whatever that movie was, right? No horse head. Just blood from the top of the sheet on the pillows and everything. And we're going, oh my God, are you okay? And we start looking at, not a mark on either of us.
Wow.
I didn't have a period. And he, I warned him, and he just took the sheets and he started to spray and wash it. And he says, we're going to wash these and we're never going to talk about this again.
Wow. Yeah.
So I want to cover Johnston Atoll a bit here.
Yes.
This is a very critical incident, and there are so many more, and it's all going to be in my books, and I just have to finish writing them. But in that lover, his name was Jason. He's no longer with us. He crossed over in 2005, but he was a lifetime military brat, and his father, he told me stories that he would go to the nuclear silos and they'd open them up from above and he would dangle his feet in looking at the nukes. And so apparently his family had some kind of top clearance. And we were in Honolulu, and he said he was going to get a job on Johnston Atoll. And Johnston Atoll is 800 miles southwest of Hawaii in the middle of the ocean. And it was a military base where they took the chemical weapons from many countries around the world and they broke them down into their elements and neutralized them. So it had a lot of security, and they did a lot of war games type things. How fast can we act? How can we respond? And my boyfriend at the time, live-in boyfriend, we had been together 4 years, and said, I'm going to get a job there. And I didn't take him seriously, but next thing I know, he has a job, he's going there. I thought it was an excuse to break up. He said, no, I love you, I'll get you a job. And so without, seeing anybody in person, I'm getting a phone interview, and they hire me, and I'm in a military craft, and I'm flying to Johnston Atoll. So this is I'm like a spiritual little hippie chick, right? I'm going to work on a military base. I'm going, I don't understand my life, but I'm going to go do this. So I'm off to Johnston Atoll, and I'm flying in this craft here. And I had to go through all this stuff to be admitted onto the island. And it took quite a while. And then I'm sitting on a bench, and they somehow, I don't know how we did, they somehow got the word to my boyfriend that I had arrived. And he was getting my bicycle, although I didn't know what it was. Everybody had bikes. It's a tiny island, 1/2 mile by 3 miles, and everybody had bikes. So he's getting his bike, that is my gift. And a man comes up to me and says, congratulations, you just landed on a joint U.S. extraterrestrial military base.
Whoa!
Out of the blue. Never saw this man before. He didn't know me. Maybe he did. See, they've been tracking me my entire life. They knew when I landed who I was. They knew why. That's why they hired me. They go, we hit the jackpot. Now, I don't know who I am, right?
Right.
Because I'm repressing. So, but then he sees, he looks over my shoulder, and he sees Jason coming up with my bike from behind me. And I don't get to ask any questions. Like, what? What do you mean by that? And he says, I've got to go. I never saw that man again. So I'm there living a normal life, quote unquote, on a military base for about a year. And Jason got fired because the poor man was an alcoholic. That's why he died so young. He just could not get over his alcohol addiction. And I ended up taking a lover because there were only 25% women there. And if you didn't have a man in your life on Johnston Atoll, you were continually harassed by people that wanted you to have, be in relationship or have sex with you. And it's like, oh God, I just want to get through. I'm working, right? So when Jason left, he says, "You've got to get a lover to protect yourself. You've got to have somebody there. Otherwise, it was just the potential for abuse was too much." So I got a young lover, and we were in a mutual, agreement to keep each other company, but it wasn't going to be a lifelong thing. So I'm in bed with this lover, and they just have a decree. They issue like a decree on the island that if you're married, you can't be sleeping with anybody. And it was so ridiculous because the whole island was Peyton Place. Everybody was sleeping with everybody and changing partners at night. It was just ridiculous. And we just made love, and we're looking up at the smoke detector. And it dawns that we were both kind of psychic, right? And we just look and we go, "Oh my God, that's not really a smoke detector. They're watching us. They're watching us." And we had that realization, and we did verbalize it. Within 24 hours, now we slept in separate barracks because you couldn't sleep overnight. There was two. He was a military fellow because they could have surprise inspection. So I went back to my barrack, and next thing you know, I'm being picked up by 6 Greys, and there's 6 military, and they're marching on either side of me, and I'm being carried like a surfboard, and I start screaming bloody murder because it's shocking. You're sleeping, and all of a sudden you're being carried. And the Grey that was holding my right foot said, "Go ahead and scream all you want. You're in an energy field. No one can hear you."
Right.
So at that point, since this had been an experience I'd had many, many times before, I relaxed into it. They didn't kill me. They didn't really hurt me. I knew.
Read so you can get to the end of it. I want to be sure and hear it all.
Oh shoot! Okay, so they took me to an underwater installation, and at that point, and they took my boyfriend. He was there too. They put him on the traditional table, and I don't know exactly what they were doing to him, but he was not enjoying it. But they came to me, and they took me to a room, and they dressed me in a gown. And the gown was very magical because there were these shoes. And when I would walk with these shoes, I would float. I would literally float. Every step, I was gliding 10 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to an underground installation. As I was traveling down into this underground installation, there were these tall whites. They were Anunnaki, piecing it together. At the time, I didn't really quite understand that. And they were progressively taller. So the very shorter ones, around 6 to 7 feet, would come in, and they would step in behind me. They were all dressed like they were going to some kind of ball. Years later, I saw Eyes Wide Shut, but it was beautiful gowns, beyond human. It's like you can't even imagine how gorgeous these clothing were, and the beings were. Every one of them could have been a model on the fashion magazine, but they were like enhanced humans. They were more beautiful than anything you could ever imagine. And they're falling in place behind me, and I go further and further into the the inner earth or whatever it was through, and went from the artificial military construction where my boyfriend at the time was being examined, to this beautiful caverns that kept getting larger and larger. And eventually I get in front of a big solid wall, obsidian, I guess is the black shiny rock.
Is she the key?
And they were saying as we were walking, "Is she the key? Is it going to happen today? Is she the one?" And I was confused. Why are they saying all this stuff? And it was all telepathic. Nobody's mouths were moving. And it was like this cacophony of communication and excitement, and it kept growing. And finally, I'm stopping, and I stopped in front of the wall, and I said, how many people are here? And they said 1,000. So they have magical numbers. They wanted it to be exactly 1,000. And there's a white light that's on the floor, and I know to stand right in the white light. It's making a circle on the floor. So I stand in this white light, and then everything grows silent. Very ritualistic.
Right.
But it felt very good. It felt very spiritual. There was I didn't have any fear. I had very good instincts. If it was something I needed to fear, I would have feared. It just felt very high spiritual. And then the wall kind of like electric disintegrating into its particles and disappeared. And we saw these very large feet of a gigantic being, and we tried to crane our necks to see. And as we were struggling, the being from beyond the wall, which was huge, took up the whole cavern, projected an avatar of herself. And she was a dragon. And it was a human dragon. And she was very kind and loving. And we had an interchange. She appeared about my height, so we could look. It's very important to look into each other's eyes, especially through the right eye, because you can see the souls, and you know that the consciousness that's in the apparent other is the same consciousness that's within myself, which is connected to source. It's God consciousness, and this being was a very enlightened, evolved, conscious, spiritual being. And as we started to talk, suddenly there was a simultaneous conversation of everybody simultaneously asking questions and getting them answered, because that's the level that we can communicate at. In our natural form, we're not into this slowing down, subparsing, breaking it down into language. And it was kind of like the hive or bee mind, like maybe bees, when they're buzzing, they're all communicating. That was the closest I could describe it. And I don't know the pieces of the answers of the questions, because it's not time to reveal that.
Right.
But then they returned to my bed.
Okay, the show's over. I want everyone to know that Jupiter Ascending. This is Jupiter Ascending. They stole part of her story. This is what I was talking about early in the show. Thanks so much, Janet. They'll be back on again next week. Janet and Dr. Leslie will be back on again next week, and we'll get some more. And I'm going to probably ask her. There was this story that we couldn't get. But thank you so much, Janet, for coming. And thank you, Dr. Welcome.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Enjoy your extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big-ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
trouble.
trouble.
Come on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our Seed Pack Special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey Hey folks, Captain Nighthawk here. Do you have a favorite host? Well, imagine if you will having all the broadcast shows from 2013 to listen to anytime you want. Awesome deal, huh? Anyway, so stop by freedomslips.com and order the entire 2013 library of your favorite host for just $30. Not only do you help with the station funding to keep us on the air, you also help the host because they get half of the net on every order. Also, we have Revolution Radio's all-time favorite shows all on one disc. The details are really broad, so you'll have to visit the website.